Jacaro Toro here, and on this channel I focus on Australian Aboriginal languages, cultures, history, and so on. And this here is another video about kinship terminology in the Ngarla language, a conservative Pama-Nyungan language of the Pilbara region of Western Australia. So this is the fourth video in this series, and as you can see, I want to focus on grandparents and grandchildren today. We have the father's side here, the mother's side here, and a few other terms that I think are relevant in this context. And we have a number of reciprocal terms. I have talked about those earlier. They are terms used by people in a certain relationship to each other to refer to each other. Like Mari, which means both father's father and son's son. This is a feature of kinship terminology in Australian languages, these reciprocal terms. So Mari is father's father and son's son then, both of those. Unfortunately, Brian Gatenbeek, my friend and colleague who recorded these terms, has not written anything about whether Kabari, father's mother, is also a reciprocal term. So I don't know. What I do know is that it means father's mother. Here you can see that on the mother's side things are a little more complicated. Unclear why, but we find this in languages all over the world. You have one area where things are fairly simple and a related area where you expect things to be the same, but they aren't, as it turns out, when you look into it. Why is this? Who knows? But anyway, we have three words for mother's father: Mabiji, Nyami, and Jamoro. And one word in two different versions for mother's mother: Kanjai and Kanjari. And here, according to Gatenbeek's information, we have two terms of address for real mother's father used by young people, Mabiji and Nyami. And we have two terms of reference for real mother's father used by adults. Once again, Mabiji, but also Jamuro. Now, I suspect that this information is not complete, because it's reasonable to think that there must also have been a term of reference for mother's father for young people, and a term of address for mother's father for adults. But I don't have any information about that, unfortunately, so I can't say anything about that. What I do know is that this is a reciprocal term used for man's or woman's mother's mother on the one hand, and also for a woman's daughter's daughter. And here Kanjai was considered less formal and used by young people, and Kanjari more formal and used by adults. And when I came down here, it felt as if this pen was giving up on me, so I didn't use this pen here when I wrote the middle column, where we first have mari or marinja. Term of address used by a grandparent to a grandson going through the law, so being initiated. But also a term of reference used among the four grandparents when talking about this grandson. And it so happens that these two terms have been introduced in a previous video. Jagan gara, where gara marks dual, so two people, and jagan malinga, where malinga is plural. There is in Ngarla also a term jagan, which means either person in a married couple. And this term can be used when the speaker is 2 generations away from the person he is talking about, the jagan. So the jagan needs to be in the grandparent generation or the grandchildren generation. These two are reciprocal terms, as I have indicated. And jagan gara means both a grandparent plus spouse or a grandchild plus spouse. Jagan malinga, grandparents and siblings to them, or grandchildren and siblings to them. Now, as I said in the previous video where I talked about these two terms, here one might wonder, these siblings, aren't they also grandchildren? Well, here we need to keep in mind that Aboriginal men had different spouses during their lives, more than one spouse normally. So these siblings here could be the grandchildren's half siblings and therefore not grandchildren of the grandparent, if that makes sense. And hence here jagan gara, when used by a grandchild, jagan gara could be the grandparents, but it could also be one grandparent and his or her current spouse. Yes, but I think this is actually quite straightforward compared to some other areas of the kinship terminology in the Ngarla language. And this will be all for today. But as you know, if you've been watching my videos, I will be back. So, see you later.